Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And in this one, I'm going to be going over the Necrolord Covenant, specifically to how it relates with a Restoration Druid. Do you want to pick it? Does it have no benefits whatsoever? Is it garbage? Is it trash? Is it the best? That's what we're going to be going over. Where are the synergies? What are some of the creative options that you're going to have at your disposal if you do decide to go down the Necrolord path? Now, in my previous videos with the Balanced Druid, I said that this was a safe pick, and it is also a safe pick for Restoration. And I would say that it's a good pick if you want to switch between them, between Restoration and Balance, that is. That's predominantly what I've played in the past, is flipping between those two specs, and it definitely provides good synergy overall in that regard, as well as with to PvE and PvP. Now, as Restoration, you still get the same Covenant ability, which is the Fleshcraft shield. It's still just a casted shield that absorbs a pretty large amount of your health, and you can amplify the effects of it through the talent tree itself and gain even more benefits to it. In PvE, it seems a bit clunky to use. Perhaps you just cast whenever you have a free moment outside of healing so you can start a fight with some extra health, but it does seem to be difficult to use in a player versus environment, especially as Guardian, as a tank. I mean, you're going to cast it before you charge in. It's not that big of a benefit to kind of impede your motion through a dungeon. So in PvE, I feel like it's going to struggle a bit, but in PvP, it's very strong, especially when you synergize it with the Covenant talent trees to make yourself immune to crowd control while it's active. It's going to be super annoying for anyone trying to crowd control you as a Restoration Druid, which is why this is such a safe pick when it comes to PvP. Adaptive Swarm now is still the class ability, and it benefits you just as well as it does as a Balanced Druid as Restoration by just increasing the effectiveness of your heal over time effects. Now, it does have excellent synergy with some of the legendaries here. Your damage over time effects occur 25% more quickly, but more importantly, your heal over time effects occur 10% more quickly. So if you decide to go after the Umbra Hide Helm, your Adaptive Swarm is going to synergize very nicely with that. And again, this is a legendary you can go after that would benefit you as Balance and Restoration if you wanted to be flipping between the two of them, and it has a strong synergy overall with it. Now, you could use this legendary instead, where Swiftmend no longer consumes your heal over time effects and instead extends them to get a little bit of an extra boost on them with an overgrowth, or even run the double life plume and try and get some extra increased healing along with the photosynthesis talent. There's going to be some interesting synergies there that were pointed out in my legendary video that I didn't really consider. You're going to be heavily relying on RNG because it is only the bloom effect, so this 5% chance to make it bloom. But it will be very strong against purge teams overall when you're going Restoration Druid. And then, of course, if you want to check out the legendary videos to get the specifics of this, I have that available on my channel here. So I'm not going to be going too much into it. It's more so the synergies between the Covenants and the legendaries that I want to touch on. So far, we've just got the spell. We've got the Covenant and class spell. Jumping into the talent trees here, we've got using Fleshcraft with nearby corpses derives a benefit from a corpse differing based on the creature's type. And again, this is still somewhat up in the air as to regards how it's going to work in PvP, specifically Battlegrounds. Generally speaking, there's not going to be a corpse to use this on in Arena, so you're not really getting too much of a benefit. Then you move down to the conduits, which are still not available at this time, but I'll be doing a conduit review literally as soon as they are created and available to view. Moving down, we've got Travel with Bloop. While standing still, you slowly build stacks of Bloop's Wanderlust. At 10 stacks, your movement speed is increased by 10%. 10% movement speed at all times could be strong, but do remember the conduits that lead into these are likely going to dictate your direction. So if an endurance conduit is super powerful when it comes out, you're going to have to pick up Travel with Bloop just because the conduit is so strong. But this one oozes frictionless coating. When reduced below 50% health, you get a shield for 10% of your health. This is very similar to the Safeguard trinket, those tank trinkets throughout Battle for Azeroth that were super strong in PvP and also really annoying, but this is a strong effect in PvP regardless of how annoying it is. It's annoying because it's really good. It's just going to have an extra chance to keep you alive. So here in this talent tree, you're going to be basically crossing your fingers that the potency conduit ends up being the best, so you can also benefit from that Safeguard effect in the talent tree. Now we move over to Plague's Preemptive Strike, your first attack or spell cast on an enemy. Now it already says enemy, not ally, so you're generally kind of already like, increases your damage done to them by 10%. So as restoration, not really that great of a benefit. The nice part about this one as well is if you wanted to switch between balance and resto is that you can keep this one between both of them. You don't have to flip it around too much. So this one overall kind of takes the cake for the covenant traits here. But again, keep in mind the conduits. Moving down here, we don't have the conduit decision to get in our way, but this is still kind of looks like more just for fun. You get a little bit of locksmithing if you want to get into some boxes. Don't know how that's going to end up playing out overall, if it'll get you too far ahead. Whereas defeating enemies has a chance to deploy your Plagueborn Cleanser Slime, which improves the remaining durability of armor, save some gold. Open some boxes, save some gold. Again, this is probably going to be picked depending on the conduits, right? But when we get down to the bottom one, here we go, the ultimate form. Fleshcraft renders you immune to crowd control. So now when we activate the shield, we will be immune to crowd control until it's broken. So 5,000 damage or 4,500 damage has to be done before I can be crowd controlled. I have 21,000 health. That's a quarter of my health. That's a lot of damage that you got to dedicate to me to put me in a poly and heal all the damage you did anyway and then attack somebody else. So to me, this is a build that you would go against Rogue Mage. And Rogue Mage is always good. So this is a safe pick overall if you want to be running the Necrolords. It's got that kind of cheat deathy-ish effect where you just get an extra shield when you dip low, immunity to crowd control. That Rogue Mage, they want to put all that damage into the target they want to kill. They don't want to waste that damage on you just so they can stun you into a sheep. It's going to set the Rogue Mage teams back a lot. So this is like the anti-Rogue, the anti-Rogue Mage. And Resto Druid has struggled with Rogue Mage in the past. So to me, if I want to compete in Arena and push high rating, this is a really solid build for me overall. In a player versus environment, not so much, right? Not compared to some of the other Covenant options. You could make it work. It really depends on how much crowd control there is in the dungeons, for example, or raids. So if you can benefit from being immune to it. Otherwise, yeah, this tree could struggle a bit, flipping between both PvP and PvE. This seems to be a much more PvP focused one, but it's a strong one, and it's one that you could use for balance and resto, and that's Plague Devisor's Merilith. Moving down to Emeni, this is the one with Emeni's Magnificent Skin. When you use Necrolord class ability or spell, you gain a stack of it, and it goes up to 4 times. Then if you use Fleshcraft, it will increase the maximum health further by 5%, so you can double the value of your Fleshcraft, a 40% shield, but you'd have to wait in combat and then cast it in combat. A little bit awkward to use in PvP. A little bit awkward to use as a tank too, because you'll be getting hit by the mob and then have to cast your shield. Just really tough to use in general here. It's not super spectacular, stands out to me. So we just get a little bit of extra fall damage instead of dying. So if you have trouble falling off things, great pickup there. Instead, you can get another Hearthstone. We all know we need another Hearthstone. I mean, I've got like 2 now, maybe 3. I don't know. I need 4. You never have enough Hearthstones. This isn't a really big deal, right? The conduits are going to dictate which one of these you go for. Moving down to this tier, we've got Grizzled Toes. Movement speed increased by 2% for every nearby enemy. Seems pretty good for getting away from cleaves. So if you struggle with multiple melee targets, chasing warriors, death knights, rogues, demon hunters, you're a healer, you know what I'm talking about. We hate that. This could get us away from them a bit better. Gnashing Chompers. Gain 1% haste for 20 seconds after defeating an enemy, up to 5% haste. You're not really defeating a lot of enemies. Not super blown away by this. When reduced by below 20% health, fear nearby enemies for 3 seconds. Could be strong in a PvP environment. It's on the same diminishing return as Cyclone. If it's a fear diminishing return as it says it's listed. Doesn't look like it has a cooldown. So whenever you're dipped below that, it'll fear everyone away. Melee classes are generally, they have a lot of tools to deal with fears, so it's not super effective. This would be more so if a rogue mage switches to you and they're about to finish you off, and then you fear them off and they can't get that last little killing blow. Could be annoying for them. The fear really isn't long enough. It's a very dangerously low amount of health. This whole tier seems a bit awkward to use. In my mind, if you were picking based on the trait, you'd want the movement speed. But you're likely picking this again based on the conduits when they're available. Moving down to the Runescribed Bone. This is a big tooltip there. Each enemy you defeat grants you 1 stack of Runescribe Bone, reducing magic damage taken by 1% for 30 seconds. You're not really defeating enemies in, I mean, I guess in dungeons you get a bit of magic damage reduction, and then you empower the effects of your shield. So releasing stacks deals 700 damage to nearby enemies, increased by 1% per stack. The shield amount is doubled. The cooldown reduction is doubled. We don't really care about that. Movement speed is increased. Haste is doubled. So you get a 5-second fear. It does make it a little bit more interesting. And then the movement speed would also be 25%. This one overall seems a little bit hard to use, and it's mostly just because Fleshcraft has a cast time on it, and it looks like it's interruptible. So to me, Emeni's a hard sell, and I feel like it's a hard sell in PvE and PvP, but maybe not. Maybe defeating enemies in a dungeon, so this could be a good Mythic Plus pick. Raid is a hard sell, depends on how much extra kind of boss trash you get, if there's a lot of ads or something. So this could be like the Mythic Plus pick I see, but for PvP it seems really difficult to use. For tanking it seems really difficult to use. Moving down to Bonesmith, Hirmir, Serrated Spalders, which just inflicts shadow damage every time you get hit by a melee attack, so synergizes well with Thorns. Could be a good way to push melee off of yourself. And then defeating an enemy reduces, you're not really defeating enemies in most environments. I guess in PvE, if you're healing, you don't want to be hit in melee, so you would go for that. But if you're in PvP and you want to make melee rogues specifically really mad, then you could run that. This is probably a pick where you're going after the conduits instead, and you're just kind of left with whatever this is here. Is like the leftovers, right? Moving down to the second tier, Hymir's Assault, Ravenous Pendant. Defeating an enemy. Oh, this is defeating enemy stuff. Not too helpful in Arena. Defeating an enemy restores 1% of your maximum health after 3 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. So as a tank, if you were going to play Guardian in dungeons, this would be a nice little pick-me-up heal. Hymir's Arsenal, Gore Stompers. Damaging or healing a target below 35%. Grants you 25% increased movement speed. Could be just good overall. Whenever you're chasing that warrior that you got from LFG, and he's line of sighting you, and he's really low health, but your life bloom ticked, and now it's like, all right, I can catch up to him. Might be good in that situation. Still a pretty tough sell. Hymir's Arsenal, Marrowed Gemstone. After landing 10 critical strikes, you gain 20% increased critical strike for 10 seconds. May only occur once per minute. Good synergization with Living Seed. So we get some fat regrowth crits. We are losing essences like the Spirit of Preservation. So we're going to be losing a ton of regrowth healing coming into Shadowlands because of that. This could help sort of beef that up a bit. And again, keep in mind the conduits. I'll be doing a conduit review, so if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you are, because this is probably even more important information than what I'm giving you here as this kind of first peek for Resto Druid Necrolords. Runeforged Spurs. Mount speed is increased by 5%, and then if you're attacked while mounted, it's increased further. Normally you're slowed when you get hit by your mount, and instead you get to get benefits from getting hit on your mount. Again, this is quality of life. Smithing expertise. You gain mining materials from completing activities that contribute to your Great Fault. So you want to, have maybe in a battleground, actually just moving a little bit faster, like that carrot on a stick might be helpful. Or you can just get some extra resources, make some extra gold. Depends on your playstyle, right? If gold ain't a problem, then obviously you're going for the movement speed here, right? You do get to pick this one because there's no conduit forcing you not to pick one the way that it's built, so that will be a choice. And then we've got the Forge Bone Reveries. Upon death, your armor continues to fight for you, allowing you to fight for an additional 10 seconds. Very similar to the Spirit of Redemption for Holy Priests. So when they die, they turn into that giant angel and continue healing. But you're 50% less effective. Still nice. I mean, is it competitive though? So in PvE, it's not a complete cheat death, right? Like you still die. So I feel like this is a hard sell for Mythic Plus. I guess, but you get big crit. It's a tough one because in Mythic Plus you want to complete. This is like a half a cheat death, like you die and come back but die again. Whereas a full cheat death is you died but you're back and you're not dying again unless you're brought below 0 health again. So I don't see it getting huge value in Mythic Plus as restoration specifically. Could be like a backup in case you died to trash tanking if you wanted to tank, but it's a tough sell. This one's a tough sell overall. It seems to me that it's pretty cookie cutter. You get the Safeguard Trinket effect. You get immunity to crowd control. That's your PvP pick, right? Pretty easy there as Restoration. And then as Emeni is probably going to be your Mythic Plus pick for Restoration. And then depending on the throughput of this crit from the Gemstone, assuming that the Endurance Conduit will also be good, then I see Bonesmith Hermir being good for throughput, but he's a hard sell. These two are pretty hard sells. This one's really straightforward, powerful PvP option. So if you're going to play Restoration Druid here moving into Shadowlands, you like the Necrolords, you like the aesthetic, the bones, the skeletons. I don't know why you would. You're playing a Druid. Generally, I would think that you enjoy life and nurturing and all that stuff. So it does seem a little bit of a clash if you want to go for the Necrolords. But I like the Necrolords even if I'm a Druid. And this seems like a safe pick. Immunity to crowd control, beef up your heal over time effects. You get to flip between Resto and Moonkin pretty freely. Pretty easy sell for me right now at the moment. If I want to be focused on competition, right? Yeah, it's a safe pick. That's my overall assessment for it. So if you enjoyed the video, please like the video. If you want to leave some comments on your thoughts of potential synergies down below, I'm always reading the comments. I want this to be a resource for everybody to sort of assess their decision making, right, moving into Shadowlands, because it's a big deal which one you pick. So I want as much information out there as possible. If I miss something, I love seeing it in the comments down below so that we've all got as much information as we can when we make this big decision to basically marry one of these covenants. You know, you want to make sure you're marrying the right one. You don't want to get stuck with someone who's just going to kind of annoy you in the future and you resent them a little bit. Okay, maybe too personal. Yeah, here we go. Thank you very much for watching the video, and we will see you in the next one.